Slim options for the Edmonton Oilers as they try to figure out their problem on the right side of the blue line, and one name could ruffle some feathers within the Oilers fan base. All that and more today on Oilers Digest. But before we get into that, we just hit 1,700 subscribers. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for helping us hit that milestone, and we'd like to make it climb even more towards the start of the season. Hopefully hit 2,000 subscribers. But without further ado, subtraction by addition, or in my thoughts anyways, when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers, they are still figuring out their options on the right side, and one of them, according to Frank Seravalli, is Tony DeAngelo. We'll go right into the quote. He says, "I'll throw one other name at you that I don't think has gotten much play internally, but I think is a better player than all the names that I mentioned who are still unsigned." Of course, the names that he did mention were guys like Justin Schultz, Tyson Barrie, Kevin Shattenkirk, amongst many others that are still not signed. And one who's still unsigned is Tony DeAngelo. I think what you're talking about for the potential is the potential for a 50-point defenseman on your team that is still in his 20s, that is ready, willing, and able to play for close to league minimum, and would absolutely love to be in Edmonton. Now, that last part I don't necessarily agree with. Of course, Tony DeAngelo, American, he has played in Canada before for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. But when it comes to Canada, all that pressure, eventually, I believe for him, he would crack under the pressure. Those are my thoughts exactly. I know down in the comments you might disagree with me, but let's get into the rest of the Seravalli quote. All the intel that I have is that he's a really well-liked teammate. That just kind of goes without saying. Have there been some skirmishes or scuffles that have popped up over the course of his career? Of course, there's the notable one with Alexander Georgiev when he was a New York Ranger. That's the one that sort of led him to being bought out by the team. Did he gain notoriety for his Twitter account? Of course, there's the infamous burner account. If you think that was him, if you think that wasn't him, it was him. I mean, all those things are all true, or some of them are true. Some of them have become legend when it comes to filling this roster, and the Oilers have shown this before. Think about the player we were just talking about in Evander Kane. It can't be a popularity contest. I say this all the time when we talk about building a team. Are we looking to have a team of nice guys who win in the community, or are we looking to have a team that wins the Stanley Cup? I think there's a way to blend both those missions, but I'm not leaving any stone unturned on trying to win a Stanley Cup. And when it comes to trying to win a Stanley Cup, I don't think Tony DeAngelo is the missing piece. Of course, when it comes to the guys I did mention earlier last week, Justin Schultz, Tyson Barrie, Kevin Shattenkirk, I think those are stepping stones to, potentially a trade deadline acquisition. But Tony DeAngelo, when it comes to having him on your roster to trying to win a Stanley Cup, he is not the missing piece. And of course, when it comes to the Oilers and being, sort of hockey's safe haven, their halfway house, you can see there in the past, Craig McDavid, who was signed in the 80s after that drunk driving charge, Evander Kane, of course, most notably Jake Virtanen there after the whole ordeal there with the Vancouver Canucks and went to Russia, and there's the whole legal issues. He was signed to a PTO by the Edmonton Oilers, of course, didn't last the entire preseason. And guys like Corey Perry, of course, there's the whole Chicago incident. And speaking of Chicago incidents, there's the most recent one with Stan Bowman. So the Oilers, when it comes to trying to win, they don't really take any shame in any of their decisions. And when it comes to, the fan base's opinion, that kind of gets thrown out the window. And when it comes to Tony DeAngelo, I think if they do, proceed with signing him, of course, the fan base's opinion again would just be thrown out the window. But let's take a look into Tony DeAngelo. Let's take a deep dive into him. Of course, you can see there, started off with the Arizona Coyotes, went into the AHL for a bit, and then sort of, solidified himself in the league as a power play specialist. Some are calling him a power play merchant, because without the power play, Tony DeAngelo doesn't really do a whole lot else. Judging by his player card there, of course, the 8% wins above replacement, you can see there, okay, the offensive side of the game, yeah, sure, he's decent, but when it comes to playing defense, that's where you lose a good chunk of people outside of his character. Sure, say what you want about the guy, but he just doesn't want to play defense there. And of course, power play percentage in Carolina last year wasn't on the power play a whole lot because they had guys like Brent Burns running the power play. So without the power play, Tony DeAngelo, not really expecting a whole lot of him. According to Puck IQ, DeAngelo had a dangerous Fenwick 4 percentage. I'll sort of get into the breakdown of that stat of 49.8%. This was across all levels of competition, and this was also the lowest of any defender who played for the Carolina Hurricanes. Of course, Dangerous Fenwick 4 is a weighted shot metric using shot distance, locations, and types of shots to give each shot a danger value, and Defensive Fenwick 4 is, you can get the calculation there, 4/against ratio. So the advanced stats, not necessarily agreeing with him whatsoever. And you can see there's sort of the breakdown of the Carolina defense. You can see there Jacob Slavin, Brady Shea, Brent Burns, Dmitry Orlov, Brett Pesce, and Jalen Chatfield, all playing significantly more time than Tony DeAngelo. Of course, Carolina, a very stingy team defensively, and throwing DeAngelo into that just kind of throws everything into the whack for that whole Carolina blue line. Of course, Rod Brind'Amour, he emphasizes a work ethic, and Tony DeAngelo, again, when it comes to the defensive side of things, I don't think he impressed the Carolina Hurricanes coaching staff all that much. Sure, he can finish all that well, but when it comes to playing defense, and that's when it comes to the Oilers, they need a guy next to Darnell Nurse, and this would just be, a Nurse Barry situation all over again, and that's something I don't think any Oiler fan wants to see. And you can see they're bought out by the New York Rangers after the Georgiev incident, when there was the whole altercation in the tunnel there after the game. And when it comes to being popular with his teammates, again, that's not something I quite believe. Sure, there might be a few names that advocated for Tony DeAngelo, but when it comes to hopping from multiple team to multiple team, there's nothing I can really believe about that. And you can see there with the Philadelphia Flyers, he had that 2-year contract, and then after a year with John Tortorella, I'm guessing Tortorella gave up on him, and then again was bought out. And again, if you want a guy that can sort of run the power play, of course in Edmonton he wouldn't get any power play time with Evan Bouchard and even Darnell Nurse on that second pairing. Tyson Barrie is just Tony DeAngelo without all the controversy. And if that's someone you really want, just sign Tyson Barrie, or even any of the names I mentioned earlier. There'd be all better names than Tony DeAngelo, like Kevin Shattenkirk, Justin Schultz, Tyson Barrie. They can all sort of run a power play. They've had multiple years of running the power play, especially Barrie and Schultz in Edmonton, and then Kevin Shattenkirk. I tried to combine the two names there. Kevin Shattenkirk, just a veteran that is well needed for the room. Of course, the Oilers, they can't get enough of their veterans in the locker room. And all three of those names, and even names I mentioned even before, like a guy like Dante Fabro, any of those would be much better than Tony DeAngelo, who, again, all of his production comes on the power play and doesn't play a lick of defense whatsoever. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Should the Oilers somehow try to go for Tony DeAngelo, or should they wait out for someone to sign on a PTO, any of the names that I mentioned, or wait until the trade deadline and ride on through with Stetcher and Emberson? Let me know down in the comments what you think, again, about the whole situation. That's it for today's episode. We'll see you tomorrow. My name's Matt. Have a great day.